Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for The Things That Come Between Us. I am your host, Charu Morgan, and I have been teaching and working with couples and individuals in what could be called Neo-Tantra, essentially embodiment work to help us connect more deeply to our own bodies, our experience in our own bodies, our experience of pleasure, how we can go deeper inside of ourselves and also in our partnerships and how we relate to other people. I started this podcast because I have been so frustrated with the social media format of trying to get things to fit into a minute, and everything that I engage with has to do with nuance. I am all about what lies in those spaces in between, and I'm hoping that this longer podcast format will allow me to share with you in those spaces in between where we get into subtlety, where we get into nuance, and where we can really grow together. You can find more about me and my work at charumorgan.com. That's CHARUMORGAN.com. So this week, we are going to be talking about how have we become who we are sexually, and how might we want to be made love to if we could discover that from within ourselves rather than having it be defined from something externally. For most of us, I feel like just being alive on the planet right now with the different ways in which the culture works and affects us, with the generational pieces that have been put forward, with some of the puritanical overlay of how we see culturally and relate to our sexuality, most of us have developed sexually, and depending on what generation you are, this also changes, but most of us have developed sexually from external ideas. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. This is just part of being alive, right? We are going to be affected by our culture. And also, I think there's an interesting limitation here, because if we have always only known ourselves and our experience of pleasure and our sexuality based on an idea that has been handed to us or a visual that has been shown to us that was created by a culture that isn't necessarily deeply connected to our bodies, to our sexuality, and doesn't have a lot of deep self-care and self-awareness, then necessarily that means that how I have grown and developed may be more externally focused rather than almost the way I experience it is almost like this blooming from within. And I think for many of us, we have never even asked ourselves this question of who might I be sexually, or who might I become sexually if I could contact something inside of myself that would allow me to redefine what sexuality, what sexual pleasure is for me from the inside out. And if I get to be, I from deep inside, I from underneath some of the layers of who I have thought I am supposed to be, or who I have been enculturated to be, if I could touch some of those sides of myself, and when I touched them, I could listen deeply to something emerging that would point me toward some insight and some possibility about who I might be sexually that might be outside of what the culture has defined, how remarkable would that be? How precious, how special, and how potentially different. And I think that we have this opportunity to really know, really explore and get to know ourselves and redefine from within. So how do we do that? How do we begin that journey? For me, it's always been about starting. I think I like to do two different things parallel to one another. And of course, for me, one of the first things that I want to do and create when we're looking at what it is that's going to allow me to hear that deeper voice, that voice that's buried underneath what I've been told is culturally necessary, appropriate, that I've been in some ways indoctrinated with. If I'm going to try to get underneath that, the first thing that I see that I need to do is open my body. Well, how do I open my body? There's lots of different ways. Some of the ways that I like to work with best is using the breath. Sometimes that means beautiful, rich, deep breathing. Sometimes it means just taking a moment to be really conscious of a few ordinary breaths, not making it anything wildly different or super important. That this can be something that starts so simple, that we don't have to make it this whole maze of things that we need to do in order to feel ourselves. Sometimes it's simple body movement. I think that we can relate to this in a way that anytime we're doing any kind of exertion, exercise, whether it's swimming or jogging or yoga or whatever it is that resonates for our body, walking, we can often feel like some sense of coming home to ourselves either when we're in the middle of it or as we are completing some time when we've been in movement. Sometimes there can be this, as the blood is flowing through our bodies, as the endorphins are flowing through our bodies, we can begin to sort of feel and taste this like very kind of innocent and pure state of being. Maybe it comes in just a moment and it's fleeting, and maybe it stays for a little bit longer. Maybe it comes in the form of that like delicious exhaustion when we're tired after some output, and there's this spaciousness in that. And there's a lot of practices that I do specifically to work with softening the body, softening some of the armoring that's been held in the body, softening some of the layers where we may have felt like we had to contain or lock down in order to be who we've been expected to be, or in order to function in a way that feels safe for us in the world. And so there's a lot of very specific body movement work. And some of this I do some simple movement practices on my Instagram. So shameless plug, if you are not following me there, at Charu Morgan, you can find some like between 10 and 30 minute series of stretching and movement in service of opening this space in the body where we can start to contact the places inside of us that maybe have some wisdom for us. Being able to listen to the messages in our body that in order to live a modern life, there's a lot of static between where we are now and where we want to be with connecting with those aspects. And so then parallel to that kind of work, we can be also in an inquiry. For some of us, that inquiry can be through journaling. For some of us, it's going to be through conversation. For some of us, it's going to be when we're going for a walk and we're just thinking to ourselves. And one of the inquiries that I really like to begin with is, how do you like to be made love to? And for a lot of us, this is going to come to a little bit of a dead end of, what does that even mean? How would I even know? Is that different than how I've had sex before? And that's really important too. You know, if when you ask yourself this question, how would I like to be made love to? What you feel is frozen, confused, taken aback. This is a really interesting and important piece to digest and to allow to be okay. It is okay if when you begin this inquiry, you feel stuck. And how might you care for yourself in that stuckness and not make yourself wrong for that if this leads to a dead end? And the way that I like to think about when I think and work a lot with deep self-care and compassion and love. It is one of the best ways that I know to nurture the system in such a way that it can begin to blossom and bloom and share with us these deeper unfoldings that have been kind of buried and hidden when we're trying to be who we think we're supposed to be. So if you've asked yourself this question, how would I like to be made love to? And you're hitting this dead end feeling or this I don't know where to begin feeling. The first step, and this may be every time you think about it for the next several weeks, the first step is just, it's okay that I feel confused or stumped when I ask myself this. That's okay if that's your experience, and really tenderly caring for yourself there and giving so much permission, just the way that you would if you were engaging with a young person that you absolutely adore. And how might you relate to this innocent, beautiful, vibrant young person if they were feeling stumped or confused or like they can't find their way to the answer to some kind of self-inquiry? You would likely, if you really deeply care for them, give them lots of space. Let them know that you understand their feelings. Let them know that their feelings are valid. This is how ideally we're going to start to relate to ourselves if what we want is for new layers of our like deepest, truest parts to come forward and be able to take the reins more in our life and of course in our sex life. And so if that's your experience, then you're just being really kind to yourself there, and you're allowing that to be true, and see if you can let it, and this one is tricky, not stop you from continuing the inquiry. So that means if for 4 weeks, each time if you inquire, you have to just stop and let it be okay that you feel some feelings of the unknown, a little destabilized, maybe a little silly or stupid for not knowing, that you're just caring for yourself there, but you don't stop asking yourself the question, right? You don't let it stop you just because you feel stumped. And because there's always a qualifier, if you need to let it stop you there may be other ways that are more appropriate for your body to go into this inquiry. You know, it might be simple breathing to feel more relaxed states in your body that's actually going to lead you there. I like to do both at the same time, but that's not right for everyone. So if you begin this inquiry with yourself, you might have a lightning bolt of, oh my God, nobody's ever asked me that, and my imagination is just going wild, and I have so many different ideas, and they're things that I've never experienced, but I would love to. I haven't even dared to dream that someone would give these things to me. Or it might be a patchwork of different things that I have experienced that I'm excited to patchwork together of, oh, this one time this happened and that felt so good and I felt so happy in my body, and then this happened. And so really letting that inquiry flower, let it move all over, let it include all kinds of different things if that's what's moving for you. Don't rein it in at all. Give it total freedom to just have this play and exploration of what might be possible if you weren't worried about, will I ever get this? Is this realistic? I know my partner wouldn't do these things for me. Really set those things to the side and allow this to be just yours for now. And this is where there can also really be this piece of really let yourself see if you can step outside of what you think would be possible to receive, or what you have learned lovemaking is supposed to be, or what it's supposed to look like. Be so curious and see what would really feel. The inquiry is really what would really feel so good to me, to my body. I'm going to add this other question that might support the inquiry. What if I never knew anything about sex, about lovemaking, about even what makes me come or what might make my partner come? What if I knew nothing and I was just faced with an opportunity to explore my own body, maybe a partner's body, and we're both in a space of being totally curious and interested in this exploration? What might happen? that might bring in some new things to the inquiry as well. Dare I think about wanting to be just touched so softly? Just so softly, maybe more softly and for longer than anyone has ever given that to me. Maybe when I start to really think about that and let myself envision that, I feel really relaxed and happy and new things opening in me. Or maybe when I start to really think about it, I think, I don't know, maybe that seems a little slow. Okay, well, I'm in charge here. Maybe what if we acted like animals and rolled around on the floor and growled at each other? How does that feel in my body if I allow myself to relax into that potential exploration? What if I let myself imagine a situation in which someone was just there in an inquiry, in a receptive space, wanting to give me whatever I could be curious about? And it was just about them giving to me. None of this means that this is the way you are going to make love the next time you make love. This exploration is for you to explore, leaning into things that you may not have even allowed yourself to think of as sexy or sexual, and allow that to be like part of this potential internal conversation with what are the things. And this is another way I'm giving you like a bunch of different ways to inquire. Another way would be, what kind of thing could I do to my body, or could someone else do to my body, that would allow me to feel totally relaxed, safe, and at home in my body? And has that ever happened for you in sex or lovemaking, with yourself or with a partner? Ooh. And so that's an interesting, what if that were the entry point to connection and lovemaking for me? What if that's the entry point that I never quite knew that I needed, but I'm just beginning to allow myself to see might be really powerful and important for me? And then another layer of inquiry could be just a few days focused on what really turns me on. If I could have anything, again, not monitoring. In these moments, we're not monitoring like what would someone give me. But if I could have anything, and this, it's so wide open. And maybe some of the things that you want the most have been influenced by externals. Maybe they have been influenced by porn, by something that's happened with a past partner, by something you've seen in a movie. That's okay. Let yourself lean in. I'm picturing this like wide spaciousness, and then you lean way over to the left, and then you lean way over to the right, and you just get to allow all of these things in the space of what might feel rich and pleasurable in your body. What, when you think about it, makes you feel like warmth, makes you feel some aliveness through your genitals, and give permission for all of it. Maybe, there's so much room here. I tend to initially lean into things that are like softer, more cozy. Maybe it's a foot massage or something like that. But absolutely, it could be maybe you've always wanted to be spanked and you've never been with anyone where that felt like something you could comfortably ask for or something they'd be comfortable with. Can you allow that into this space where we are just in the exploration of what your body desires and how you, in this moment, subject to change, how you would like to be made love to? And then really, as the inquiry continues, really like massaging these places. Could you let the next week be about noticing and allowing yourself to bring attention to what might turn me on in this moment? What might make me feel vitality or a little bit of something alive through my genitals, through my body? Is it sensual? Is it intense? Are there places that I haven't let myself stretch into, that I could stretch into today just in my imagination. Maybe I stretch a little bit into that vision of being spanked and experiencing that, and then I realize, oh, actually that feels like a little bit too much. No problem. Take a deep breath. What might I need on the other side of that? Oh, there's this really tender holding. I feel my lover holding me in their arms, telling me there's no pressure for us to go further than I'm ready. Breathing with me. I can feel their body moving as they breathe. Stroking my hair. Maybe stroking different parts of my body. Gently touching. Maybe it's about feeling how much my partner's enjoying me. Maybe I'm just in total receptivity and my partner is just giving to my body and I feel how much they're enjoying me. Maybe they're touching my inner thighs or stroking my cheek. Maybe I can see in the look in their eyes how much they are delighting in caring for my body. And that care could be anything from those simple, tender strokes with love and tenderness, all the way to something maybe fully giving you oral sex. It's this wide spaciousness where you get to decide. And even though our intention is, yes, to go underneath some of the cultural stuff and allow something to bloom from within, we are, of course, influenced by our culture. And that is absolutely okay. I'm curious about all of it. Maybe the first things that you find are things that were strong external influences, maybe things you haven't even fully allowed yourself to explore. And you let yourself lean into those with full permission, with full care, with full acceptance. And then through leaning in that way, you might find in another month or two, when you ask yourself the same question, you have that. And then also new things are coming forward. A lot of time when we open up a space where we're allowing ourselves to not be wrong for whatever it is that we desire, and we really just let it be okay, oftentimes that opens the door for us to not get stuck there and have that be the only way we can enjoy pleasure. Oftentimes that opens the space so that we can have that, and then who knows what the next thing that opens will be. And this is something that I'm so interested and excited by, is not only us defining our own experience of our sexuality, but also having this wide sense of possibility, having this widened range of all of the ways that our bodies can experience vitality, pleasure, opening, softening. This is how, by giving ourselves so much permission, this is how we discover what true opening will be. Many of us know how to get to sexual arousal. Not all even, but many of us do. We have our ideas, we have our ways that we know we get to sexual arousal. And what I'm most excited and curious in, that's absolutely welcome, love that. I'm never negating anything. And then also, I'm looking at where is the place inside of me where I deeply open? What do I need for that? How do I have the courage to allow that? Certain things that I'll need in order to allow that just inside of myself, with my own self-pleasure, with my own self-exploration. And then there are certain things that I'm going to need to have for if and when it's appropriate for me to share that level of opening with another person. And there may be layers of things that I need in order to feel safe and comfortable in that space. There's much more to explore there, probably another episode. I think that's a good place to complete. So, in summing up, there are ways that we can work with actually opening our bodies through breath, through movement, sometimes through sound, to get to these deeper layers beyond who we have been taught to be, so that we can hear those aspects of ourselves and we can give them permission and care to come forward. And then parallel to that, and this is probably one of the easiest parts, easy is relative, I guess, but is just to offer the inquiry. And then to accept wherever you are at within that inquiry. So offering the inquiry of how would you like to be made love to? And giving space for that to blossom inside of you, giving care for yourself if you hit dead ends, caring for yourself wherever you are along the way, caring for yourself if all you discover is things that feel maybe typical or that you know you've seen before. Perfect. Love yourself there, care for yourself there, indulge in that desire. And then so much care and permission also as you expand, as you give possibility for things that maybe you've never seen or heard of, but somehow they'd feel really amazing and delicious to you. I would absolutely love to know what this experience is like for you. Please come follow me on Instagram, Charu Morgan, @CharuMorgan, and tell me what your experience of this is. And I love hearing from you. Let me know if there are other things you want to learn about through the podcast. You can find more out about me and my work and how to work with me at charumorgan.com. Please like this podcast, give it 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcast, write us a review. These things are so important as I'm just beginning to grow in this way and share my work. I've been doing my work for so many years, and as the internet keeps changing, there keeps being lots of different ways to help this work get out there. So every time you share and like, I feel warmth in my heart and gratitude, and I know that it's helping more people find this work who may need it. So thank you so much for your support, and I look forward to talking to you again next week.